Hi everyone, I'm Milane from English Made Easy. And if you are here because you need help with your English language and literature lessons, then you are in the right place. Do subscribe and you will receive all the lessons that I post to help you improve your performance in your tests and exams. Today we are doing a lesson on question tags. I will explain what question tags are and tell you all the rules you should remember when you use them. After that, we will do a short exercise to revise what you learned. You might be interested in a lesson I did recently on how to change statements into questions. Here is a link to it. Do watch it sometime. And now, without much ado, let's get started with today's lesson. So, if you want to know what a question tag is, just look at this train here. Pretend that this is your statement or your sentence, and this is your question tag. So, a question tag is nothing but a small question that is attached to a statement or a sentence so that you can ask a question. Got it? So it's like something attached to a statement or a sentence. And it's a small question, a baby question. It helps you to ask a question. What is a question tag? A question tag is a small question that is added to the end of a statement. You always add it to the end of the statement, never anywhere else. So, why do we use question tags? Who uses question tags? Well, native speakers always use question tags. Look at this example. You are going home. Now, what is this? Is this a question or is it a statement? It's a statement, isn't it? It's definitely a statement because it has a full stop here. Look at this one. Is this a question or a statement? It's definitely a question because it has a question mark. Are you going home? Is a question. You're asking someone a question. Now, if I want to use a question tag, what I will need to do is use the statement first, like this. You are going home. You are going home. And then add a tag to it, a question tag. Aren't you? So the part that you can see that is colored is a question tag. It is attached to the end of a statement. You have to have a question mark at the end and you have to separate the statement from the question tag with a comma. That's all you need to remember right now. That's your question tag. Now, why do we use a question tag? We use a question tag to confirm something or to encourage someone to reply. If you want to ask someone a question and you're not sure that person is going to reply, use a question tag. That's an easy way to guarantee that you will get a reply. Here are some basic rules to start with. A question tag appears at the end of a sentence, end of the sentence, and refers to the verb used in the clause as well as the subject. Look at the example below. This is a question tag. It is used at the end of a sentence and it refers to the verb which is are, which is used in the clause as well as the subject you. You're talking about the subject you and are. Okay? In a positive sentence, you must use a negative question tag, and in a negative sentence, you must use a positive question tag. Look here. You are tired. That's positive. So you use a negative question tag. Aren't you? And if you can see a negative sentence like this one, you cannot see it, then you use a positive question tag like can you? You are tired, aren't you? You cannot see it, can you? And if the sentence has a negative meaning, you need to use a positive question tag. She never lies, does she? All right. And don't forget to use a comma to separate the sentence from the question tag. Comma has to be there. And now, a few detailed rules that you need to remember as well. Those were the basic ones, and now we have a few detailed ones. If the statement has a helping verb or a modal verb like will, can, could, or should, it has to be used in the question tag. Here are examples for you. In the first case, the car you saw was bought by Mr. Ted, wasn't it? Now we have a verb here which is bought, and we have was, which is the helping verb. So this is the first case. If there is a helping verb there, like was, then you use this verb in your question tag. Of course, you have to remember the earlier rules as well, which means that if this is positive, this has to be negative. If this is negative, this has to be positive. Now, in this particular case, this one is positive, so we make this wasn't. You cannot say was it, you have to say wasn't it. Okay, the opposite. Here's another example for you. You should be studying, shouldn't you? Now we're using should. It's not a helping verb. We're using a modal. Will, can, could, or should. So we're using should here. Now, if you're using should, if you have one of these words, then you have to use that word in your question tag. Ensure that you're following the earlier rules that I spoke about also, which means if this is positive, this will be negative. So remember all those rules as well while we go through these ones. If there is no helping verb, now we've gone through these two cases, look at your sentence carefully, check if it has a helping verb, then you know what to do. Check if it has a modal verb, then you know what to do. If it doesn't have either of these, it has no helping verb, then use do in the question tag. For example, he likes football, doesn't he? Now, why are we using the word doesn't? He likes football, doesn't he? Why are we saying doesn't? There's no does anywhere in that first part of the sentence. So, why use doesn't in the question tag? This is why we have to do it, because you have to pretend that the word does is used in the statement. Because it's actually, he does like football. But then we don't normally use the word does when we write it. So we write it as he likes football. Okay, but actually you have to imagine that does is there, because that's actually how it is. He does like football. So if you imagine that does is there, then you will automatically know that your question tag must have the word doesn't. Okay, so use a bit of imagination and remember that does is actually there even though it's not written there. He does like football, doesn't he? It's supposed to be like that, but it's actually given to you like he likes football, doesn't he? Here's another example. You hate this movie. So if you see a sentence, you hate this movie, you have to imagine that do is written there, even though it's not written there. You do hate this movie, so you have to change it to this. You do hate this movie, don't you? But now do won't be written in your sentence, so you have to write it as you hate this movie, don't you? Now you're adding don't there, even though there's no do in the sentence, and I hope you have understood why you're doing that. The only reason you're doing that is because do is actually there, but you're not writing it. You have to imagine it there. Okay? If it is a request, now, this is the third case scenario. If it is a request, then you use will or would. Okay? This is an example for you. Close the window. So, close the window is a request, like I'm telling someone, close the window. I'm requesting someone to close the window for me. So, in that case, when I'm using a question tag, I will say, will you close the window? Will you? If there is let's in the sentence or let us is the full form of let's, then you should use the word shall. This is an example. Let's go for a walk. Shall we? Okay. If the sentence has there is, there are, or there were, use there. in your question tag. For example, there are mangoes on the table, aren't there? And if you see I in the sentence, if I is used in the sentence, for example, I am going to the mall next week, it will become I am going to the mall next week, aren't I? Okay, you cannot say am I. There's no such word, so you have to say aren't I, pronounced as aren't I. I hope the rules have been clear to you. So you have the simpler rules, which we went through a little while back, which you have to remember. And then these are the more detailed rules, which you also have to remember if you want to get every single sentence right. When to use do, does, etc. First case. When the verb in the main sentence is in the simple present tense, use do or does. For example, you like chocolates, don't you? So the word like is a verb and it is written in the present tense, the simple present tense. Like. And hence in the question tag you use the word don't. And why are we using don't and not do? Because the first part of the sentence is positive. So now you're making it negative in the question tag. So don't forget the initial rules when you go through the rest of it. If the verb is in the past simple tense, it's in the past tense, then you use the word did. Example, he went shopping yesterday, didn't he? Again, we're using a negative here, didn't, because this part is positive. Okay? The third case, when the sentence has a negative meaning, use do or does. For example, he never goes skating, does he? All right? He never goes skating. It's a negative meaning. So you use does. So now let's see if you can get all these sentences right if you have understood all the rules that we went through right now. He lives all alone in the house. What will that become? He lives all alone in the house. Use a question tag. And remember all the rules that you learned. Well, your answer should be he lives all alone in the house, doesn't he? Now, why are we using doesn't? Do you remember? Here's the rule that I spoke about a little while ago. When the verb in the main sentence is in the present simple tense, use do or does. And I had given you this example. You like chocolates, don't you? So remember this rule. The second one, Tarun is an honest man. How would you change that? How would you add a question tag to this sentence? Tarun is an honest man. Now, this is a very easy sentence, so everyone should get it right. Let's see if you got it right. That's the answer. Tarun is an honest man, isn't he? Very easy because is there, and you just have to use the negative form of it in your question tag. So, isn't. Is, isn't. The third one, he didn't sleep all night. How would you do that? This also is very easy. He didn't sleep all night, did he? So, what are we doing? We're using the same word here, did. But here it's negative, here it's positive. Simple, isn't it? Well, some sentences can be simple like this, and some might be a little more complicated. So, you need to know all the rules. The fourth one, let us go and watch a play. Let us or let's. How would you do that? That's your answer. Let us go and watch a play, shall we? Now, why are we using the word shall? There's no shall anywhere in that statement. Let's see if you remember the rule. Why? Because if there is let's in the sentence or let us, like in this one, because let us is the full form of let's, then use the word shall. Example, let's go for a walk, shall we? That's the example I taught you. So if you remember all these rules and all these examples, you will get all your sentences right. Always. The fifth one, Shakespeare wrote many plays. How would you change that? Think. It's not that easy. You have to do a little bit of thinking and applying of the rules. So the answer needs to be Shakespeare wrote many plays, didn't he? Now, why are we using didn't over there? Who can remember the rules? Why are we using didn't when wrote is the verb? Let's see if you remember the rule. If the verb is in the past simple tense, use did. Example that I gave earlier. He went shopping yesterday, didn't he? The sixth one. Sharma is a good dancer. This is very easy. Everyone should get this right. So, what's your answer? Very easy one. Shama is a good dancer, isn't she? So, is and isn't. Easy, isn't it? The seventh one, they are good friends. Another very easy one. Got it? Your answer should be they are good friends, aren't they? Because we're using the same verb are, aren't. Positive, negative. That's all. Eighth one, it rained all night. Think carefully. Think of the rules that you heard. What's your answer? It rained all night, didn't it? Now, why are we using didn't? Do you know why we're using didn't? If the verb is in the past simple tense, use did. And the example I gave you earlier, he went shopping yesterday, didn't he? And why are we using didn't here and not did? We're saying use did. Why didn't? Because here it's positive, so we're using the negative form. The ninth one, John plays the violin. Think. John plays the violin becomes John plays the violin, doesn't he? So why doesn't? What's the rule? Do you remember? When the verb in the main sentence is in the present simple tense, use do or does. Example, you like chocolates, don't you? But of course, we're using doesn't here. Why? Because this is positive, so we have to make this negative. The tenth one, you will do what is right. Add your question tag. This is also easy, very easy. You will do what is right, won't you? Same thing, will becomes won't. And with that, we've come to the end of the exercise, the end of today's lesson. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have benefited from today's lesson. If you have and you liked this lesson, then please don't leave without giving it a thumbs up. And please share it with all your friends because in doing so, you can help them to understand how to use question tags better. If you thought that this lesson was good and helped you to understand question tags, then I'm sure that this lesson will help your friends as well. So please do share it with them. And until we meet again, stay safe and study hard. Keep practicing. Okay?